start is basically to get everyone to appreciate the steps. I'll be very practical and I'll try to be very simple in my communication so that we don't waste time. I think there are a lot of items on this screen, so I'm struggling making it to move. Get to have it to move. Yes, so not so much about me. I'm not a guy who speaks more around me. I'm a banker, commercial banker, and I'm also a financial planner. I've been doing that since 1999. The picture that you have on the screen speaks of how most people feel just 1 week after payday. For those who run on a monthly calendar, the situation when money seems to be very short and the month seems to be very long is very familiar with what we call brokenness, which is really a temporary situation, but can be made permanent by sustaining what I would prefer to call an illicit set of behaviors, which if you don't do anything about, soon and later you'll be perpetually in a very cyclical pan of brokenness without seeing a change to an end. And I'll be looking at then how do we change that? What most of us would prefer is the scenario you can see now, where you are able to meet all your basic needs. You are able to run your savings. You are able to buy what you need to keep your family. I've just called it food, but it's more than food. You are able to take care of your children's education. If you don't own a home, you are able to rent and pay your rent and live calmly. That is not the case for the first 3 months of the year. You are able to pay your medical bills and parents and anybody else. And above all, you are able to make some savings. The Haba na Haba there is really an example of savings at the very basic level. And that Jembe represents the purchase of tools for changing your life. You're not going to make some impact without buying some tools. So for a very basic person, a Jembe is a representation of a tool. There are people who work in this town for just 700 bob a day using their Jembes, but they can make a difference. And then you can see this person tearing check leaves or the equivalent of a very organized person. This is the kind of person that you want to be. But most of us sustain this other one almost all our lives. A person without any element of organization. The table is clean. There is no organizer. There's a mind full of worry, not a mind full of any element of solutions. We need to move from this first person to this second person in our minds. I'll give you a formula, and I have attached a form on this conversation, which you can download. It is called Waste Watch. Having said that, let me just clarify that all of us without limitation spend money in 9 of the 10 items I've listed here or in these areas. A lot of money go to personal growth. As a matter of fact, all young people are going through personal growth. A lot of money go through romance. A lot of money go to family and friends. And if there is anyone you will not fail to spend money on, is that item number 3. A lot of money go to health and health living, medical issues. If you are called into a social group called a WhatsApp group, it would have to either do with life-saving scenarios or people who have lost lives. Rarely do you get called into a financial literacy class like you've been called here today, but that's a very key item we should be working on. Many people are either in business or careers or putting their money to improve those. A lot of us put money on physical environment enjoyment, which includes the long holidays we go for during Christmas and the usual holidays. Fun and recreation takes our money every day, and particularly over the weekends and Fridays like tomorrow. Spirituality is a participation that require finances in one way or the other. You tithe and you give. So you need to ask yourself, what is the level of balance that I exercise over my money in terms of these areas? I can tell you for sure, you will not find your money outside these areas. You'd have to be very unique to find a lot of your money going in areas outside these 10 areas. If you've heard about work and life balance, it's about balancing these 10 items. But I would want us to start with the one I've put in red, financial literacy, which is having the knowledge, skills, and confidence to make responsible financial choices, the kind of choices that change and improve your bank balances upwards, not necessarily in large leaps, but the change should necessarily be positive. If you are not seeing an incremental pattern in your bank balances, then your levels of financial literacy are still questionable. Safety comes in when your balances are good. You have enough to live on and you have enough to set aside, however small, be able to create a fund that you can fall back to when your situation has changed. This month and over the last 3 weeks, we've been going through very eventful situations in Nairobi and a few other cities where some people are not able to do business twice a week. And there are a lot of people who live in this city who eat from hand to mouth. If you don't have a safety amount to fall back on, you soon find yourself thrown out completely, and it happens quite a bit. Now, usually those who are financially literate have taken care of their bank balances growth and have some safety belt, are able to invest and sustain investment. Not just to invest, the question is not investment. The question is sustaining investment. It is very easy to buy an asset, but it is not very easy to keep it over 10 years earning for you. If you are going to fall back on that asset and sell it to pay school fees, to pay medical, to pay for funerals, to deal with some emergencies, then the first 3 items did not work well for you. And the majority of people in any economy are usually in that state where they have to fall back on their investments to actually get back to life when they are hit by potholes. Sometimes not very big potholes, just fairly small potholes that would have been managed by just a fair amount of liquidity. So I'll be discussing that this entire 1 hour, and that is why we are here. So the first step, as I said, is not to manage money, is to manage self. Do you know what drives you? In financial planning, it is not going to be easy until you manage your mind. To put it in much simpler terms, until you manage that which drives your choices. Any one of us sitting around this session have a set of values which you acquired from your environment of nurture. Environment of nurture is composed of parents, mother, father, or social parents. If you didn't have biological parents, whoever was your social father and social mother, they could be grandparents, they could be uncles, they could be relatives, and indeed the wider circuit of relatives. Those people live in you a set of values that determine what you prioritize, including anything that money buys, that money creates. So you can never separate values from you And so as long as you cannot separate values from you, then you must align your values to take you where you want to go. That is the first place. Now call that self-management. A lot of us are too weak to say no. Self-management. A lot of us are too weak to say postpone. Self-management. A lot of us are too weak to say spend now. Self-management. Most symptoms are symptoms of weak self-management. So for a financial plan to live beyond the paper on which it is written, then it must receive the opportunity to receive money, without which then that plan is just a piece of paper with notes, and it doesn't make a difference. So our society, through our parents, passed to us the core ideals and principles upon which that entire community exists. Kisis will always be Kisis, Luos will always be Luos, Kambas will always be Kambas, Luyas will always be Luyas, because what defines them is the set of values that the community passed through your parenting. The principles and standards of behavior, as we read them from our parents, then begin to become our basis at the personal level, which drive what we consider as important. What is important to me? My set of top 10 things is not the same as you. Even if they're in the same class, they would not be exactly the same. You would find all the rich people having a very close set of values. We say people are different, and indeed they are. They are because their values are different. How they approach money is not just the same, because it is not money which is the matter, but what they do with the money. That is important. So you need to understand why you are so weak at making certain choices. Because why do your money go towards a certain set of choices and not the other? That is the first place that you have to deal with yourself about before you deal with what you have written. Writing doesn't change the inner you. And I must say that financial planning is merely a process of organizing a disorganized you. And it doesn't make a difference if you don't follow it up with a behavior that go and create what you have written. So I will take you through that process. But the very first process is to align yourself. So I have put a document there called Waste Watch. The first thing you need to do is always to ask, where does my money go? Before you talk about where I want to take it. Where does it go? Because if you don't have it, you can't take it anywhere. So that Waste Watch, which I have put there, is a document for shortlisting all the expenses that you incur in your life. Those ones which you spend on a daily basis without fail, you list them as daily expenses. You list all, not some. You also list all the expenses which you make once in a week. I go for a haircut once every Saturday. It doesn't fail. I take my car for car wash once every Saturday. It rarely fails. There are a number of things I do once in a week. Those you spend once in a month, like most of us who are paid by way of salary, you always undertake what you call monthly shopping once in a week. Those things are there. They don't happen, once in a month. So that you pay rent once a month, you pay school perhaps once in a month or once in 3 months. I pay school fees monthly. I don't pay school fees once in 3 months. So you list all those expenses, and then you ask a very simple question, but it's not the simplicity of the question, but the behavior that follows. How can I achieve what I do daily, what I do weekly, or what I do monthly? How can I achieve the same objectives, having done this thing in a different way, and by so doing it in a different way, saved some money, because you cannot invest what you don't have. So before we talk about financial planning, you must first find out, where is the money? Why am I always minus the money 5 days after payday? If you do that exercise rather, with a lot of truthfulness, you will find your money, because you spend your money. Someone else does not spend your money. Someone can tell you to spend the money, but does not spend the money. Oyugi, just download that document and reattach it to the conversation. There are people asking for it. Those who joined the meeting after, they might not be able to see all the conversations. So what I have said is, if you're gonna do any financial planning, the first place to start is, where is my money now? Where is it going? Because you must find the waste back. I'm not saying that you'll find your money back. There are things you do with that money that must be done. But there is an extent that I call waste. There's an amount you spend above which you would need to spend to achieve what you want to achieve. There is always some element of a little luxury that you put into an expense. Now, those of us that don't have any money should not be incurring. I will give you examples. In fact, I have given you examples in that very tool. I've given you at least 3 examples. One of the examples a lot of young people make mistake around is, they are single, but they are living in 2 or 3 bedroom houses, hoping that one day they will host parents or relatives when they come. You are paying a lot of rent which you ought not to pay. If you have to host relatives, you can host them in a guest house or in a hotel, because they don't come to stay with you very long. But a lot of us would very easily rent excess rooms, which we don't need, of course, because we hope to host. I'm one of those who did that for so many years. So the amount of rent you pay should relate to your family size, not just your earning power, and many other things. So once you have done that and you have found a little money back, and I put it to you very honestly, if you relook at what you do with due honesty, you will not fail to find 5,000 shillings waste. If you are a very nice guy, if you are very honest, you can very easily find 15,000 shillings back. I have done that, and I have found money, and I am not wasting it anymore. So having said that, sorry, this item keeps hanging, so I'll keep on coming back. Then the first step is then to go into what we call the financial planning process. Now, the planning process, whether it's financial or otherwise, is standard. You always need to know first, where am I going? Remember, we have asked, where is my money? You now have to ask, where do I want to go? What state do I desire? If you have a bad situation, you cannot be desiring a bad situation. If you are unable to pay your school fees when it is due, certainly you are not doing well. You want to be in a situation where you can pay your school fees when it is due. When you are not seeing yourself having a retirement package in terms of income from investments, that would be a situation you want to desire. Describe it succinctly. The way we write a vision for a company, write an equivalent of a personal vision statement. What do you want? But this time, put in the financial value. What do you want to achieve financially after having done certain things? Say that vision for yourself. Write it down. The Kizungu correctness is not the issue here. The issue is not the vision statement written like a company, but it should be very clear to you in terms of what you want to achieve. There should be a number called wealth value. There should be a number called income value. So level of investment, say 3 million shillings in rental property, earning 25,000 shillings per month. those kind of two numbers must be in that statement, and there must be a time period within which it will be achieved. 10 years from today, a specific date today. So you can close by saying on 21st of September 2030, of today is 30th of March. 30th of March in the year 2030, that puts you to a very fixed time from the date of today. Once you are very clear on where you want to go to, you come to what we call step number 2, assessment of your current situation. And that is the most confusing step. The current situation is composed of things. One is your finances, but beyond your finances, there's also what you call social reality. So you look at this diagram I have here on the wall. It walks you through something we call our social structure. You have to look at your social structure because your social structure consumes your money. You are a person somewhere between the age number marked number 4 up to the age marked number 10. We don't have people above 71 in this kind of session. They are usually very old. You are a student anywhere in the 20s. You are a young professional anywhere in the 30s. You are a mature professional anywhere in number 6, 7, or 8. I am in number 8 today, 53 years old. I started reorganizing finances when I was just a few months from turning 40. So I've had the whole of last 7 years and a bit of year in number 6 to reorganize myself. So the first thing is to know where you are and know where your children are. If you have your children, they would be typically in number 1 for the people in number 8, 9, and 10. For your parents, they'll typically be in number 9, 10, or 11. Except when you are very young in number 3, you would have parents. Number 3 and 4, you may have parents in number 5. I have a son in number 4. I have another son in number 3. And I have a daughter who is 8 in number 2. You are planning for those children. You are planning for you, and you are planning for your parents because those people depend on you. You need to know the following: their ages and their regular needs that will demand money from you. Because as you plan, those are the things you're planning for. If they are children, their ages, their regular needs. If they are parents, their ages and their regular needs. Other dependents, again, their ages and their regular needs. If you do not take into account those regular needs, they will always interfere with your finances. If you do not provide for what you can't avoid, it will always come to visit you when you are least prepared for it, and you will find yourself selling one asset or two. As we move, there's a statement I normally use. I would not use it today. We don't have time. Take 1 hour to just go through it. What you are looking at your situation, you now, is your sources of income, what you call the income lines. How many do you have? You should be having at least 2, if not 3. If you are employed, you should also have income from sources that do not depend on employment. That could be an investment of portfolio in portfolio assets, of what you call portfolio assets. These are financial assets in the financial markets, or you could have invested in real estate, a passive source of income, or in a mature business, another passive source of income. If you don't have those sources, then you should be writing the source and the amount, which is 0 today, and then you begin to plan on how to grow it from 0 today towards the number you desire to have. You should also list your expenses, which I asked you to do earlier, and then justify the amounts which I've asked you to do by questioning how you do it differently, and justify even the existence of those lines. Some of them do not need to live in your lines anymore. A lot of us spend a lot of money on personal use assets. Personal use assets are assets we purchase for our own enjoyment. You don't need a motorbike, but you bought one and kept it in because you think it could help you enjoy yourself once or one day or the other. When you buy a car for yourself, it's a car for you, not a car for one. You make a mortgage for payment, that's not an investment. That is an asset for own use. When you buy a boat because now you have more money, so you buy a boat or buy children motorbikes to go to the race course and what have you, those are personal use assets. If you don't have a business that can sustain them, they are not the kind of assets you would comfortably sustain on a salary. Then take toll of your investment assets. There are two categories of investments I've just mentioned: portfolio assets like shares, unit trusts, insurance policies, and the other paper-based assets. They are called portfolio assets, or passive income assets, which are typically property, the rental kind of income, and dividends and profit from business investment. And that is investment in a business that is mature, not a business that requires you to work in it. That is self-employment. You should also look at the kind of liabilities you're holding. Liabilities are things you owe people. The loans from banks, SACCOs, and individuals, including the Fuliza kind of loans, be they from Safaricom, CBA, or be they from the other types of Tala and the other equipment that grant loans, including, of course, the one the government has just put aside, called the Hustler. What is your debt load? Are those debts used to acquire assets that are generating income? If you have debts and they are not used to acquire assets that are generating incomes, then they have been used for consumption. And you are therefore a very dangerous animal walking outside there. You have a lot of debt on your head and you cannot show any asset they have acquired that is earning an asset, then they have been used either for your own consumption or they have been used in personal use kind of assets. And those are the kind of tools that encourage the money to leave you and therefore encourage poverty. Loans that need to be paid, but the repayment only takes away money from you, is like the government of Kenya, which is always borrowing and is always collecting taxes and using 70% of that income to pay taxes, and is not developing its own infrastructure from its own money. That doesn't help an individual. You should also know the implications of moving assets between personal use assets and investment assets. For example, if you bought a mortgage and instead of using it, you rent it out so that it gives you more money than you need to pay rent, so that you're paying rent elsewhere from the money you are collecting from somebody and remaining with enough to invest, then that is a good, smart way of doing things. So implications of movement in any of these accounts and part of the financial statements is something you need to understand, so that the financial planning process starts with cleaning your mind by knowing exactly what drives your choices. Once you've done that, then, as I said, you look at where is it that your money is. You bring the money back by changing your habits. You align your behaviors in a manner that you achieve the same things you do, but you still sustain some money in terms of savings. Then you direct that savings towards the investment goals which you've set as a statement of vision, first step. And then you take a very good look at your current financial situation and social structure that consume the money and make choices that improve your overall situation. So like I said earlier, sorry, my machine keeps hanging and I don't know why. I'm forced to keep it out. If you do that very well, then you find yourself asking, am I broke? If you are broke, that waste watch, if you have not undertaken it, you do it. If you have undertaken it, then you use the money you are saving from the wastewater to begin directing it towards savings, and those savings will then move towards the investment opportunities. Now, it is always good to ask, what are my opportunities? So if I am saving 3,000 bob, I have been able to bring back 3,000 bob, 5,000 bob, 10,000 bob, or even 1,000 bob. What are my opportunities? One of them is a SACCO. You can direct that money to a SACCO to accumulate into a significant amount, multiply it by 3 by borrowing, and then select the kind of opportunity you want to invest it. The opportunity in which you want to invest has got to do with the goal which you set in step number 1. It should not be an ad hoc opportunity. It should be a step towards the main goal. You may want to own rental property in future. That doesn't stop you from buying shares first, accumulating the monies which you have borrowed into either shares or somebody's business or such kind of investment to multiply the value fast before you take it into property. For younger people, you should look for investments that bring you capital gains. I'll be discussing that earlier. So what are your opportunities? 3A, a very important part of question to ask. Do I go for direct investments? For example, if I am saving 3,000 bob, do I buy Safaricom shares if I'm a young person, or do I take the money to the SACCO first? Those are questions that you ask and get answers for yourselves. The answer will be driven by the kind of investment you want to make in the long run. But there is always a case for an interim investment opportunity to be taken. And the first step is to always try to accumulate. And the SACCO is one of those opportunities for accumulation. Do I use this money to access a loan and use that loan to undertake an investment right away? I remember at one point when I wanted to do something called a home, I looked at the possibility of borrowing to build my home. And I also looked at the possibility of just putting a little money aside through either materials or otherwise. And it turns out that sometimes a loan can work for you if your debt load is low. But if your debt load is already high, it is not likely going to work for you. You might just want to go into direct investment opportunities by way of loan. So what works for who depends on their current financial situation. Step number 3B is to address the challenges that you are facing that will take away any savings that you try to accumulate. For example, if you currently have an ongoing loan requiring a repayment of 2,000 shillings or 200, I'm sorry, a loan of 200,000, that statement is wrong, requiring a repayment of 18,000 shillings a month. That kind of loan is going to be there until it is paid. 18,000, if you divide 200,000, I'll do that right away. If you divide 200,000, divide by 18,000, you'll have to pay that loan for 11 months. That means that although you have 18,000 available in your salary, it is not available until 11 months pass. So you need to recognize those kind of challenges and align your plans with when those commitments end. That when those commitments end, you don't find the money again getting lost. Is someone asking a question or what? You might need to snooze or close that aperture you've left for the sound. So school fees that you're paying for your children, say 7K a month for the next 10 years. You're not going to stop paying school fees. You need to plan yourself such that when this school fees is completely done at the end of 10 years, it become part of accelerating your plan. Those are called challenges. You can't run them away and you can't wish them away. So having known your challenges, then you have to ask yourself, please just get your sound shut. The fourth step in any planning is to always ask, what are my milestones? What are the big goals I want to achieve? I think I have to get someone not talking. Rogers Swahili, please mute. Okay, so you clearly clarify your milestones, break the milestones into targets and actions. And let me use an example of a house. If you want to build a house, the first thing is to create some savings. Assuming you don't have the land, acquire the land. Then once you have the land, perhaps begin to buy the building materials slowly, especially the type that doesn't get stolen or lost, like stones and kokoto. So that the type of sand and cement which you'll require later, you buy later. So the milestone is those major achievements like buy land, accumulate the money or materials, are ready for the construction, get your drawings done and prepared everything. Then once you have the land, you've got the materials and money and the drawings done, then you start to do the foundation. And then you go to the next step of the doing the wall and the roofs and finishing. Those are milestones, targets, and actions. So you need to have a very clear breakdown of the key milestones. For each milestone, break it down into targets. And for each target, break it down into actions. A lot of us are unable to see how 2000 Bob can become an action element. And if you don't start an action, you'll never get towards a target. You don't start an action, there's never going to be a movement towards a target. And if you cannot move in towards a target, you're never going to move towards a milestone. Financial planning is about linking your overall objective with what you can honorably do today, weekly, daily, and monthly. There's no plan that succeeds in a year. The plan succeeds at the end of today. The plan succeeds at the end of the week. And the plan succeeds at the end of the month. You are here in this class because you plan to be here. So, and until we are doing what exactly lies currently on our table, we are not making a movement towards our mission and our vision statements that we wrote in the place. So set up a milestone like I have here, a milestone like set up a chicken and dairy farm by December 2024. You are at zero, but you want to do that. It could be even 2030. Then save Kenya shillings 250 in a circle by October 2024 to do that. So that the savings can enable you borrow 750 to establish the farm. So what do you need to do per day, per week, per month to create 250,000 in 1 year? Today until 2024 is just 1 year. So if you have a goal of 250,000 shillings to be saved, and you have exactly 9 months to go, then you divide that by 9 months, it must be at least 27,000 bob per month. If you can't save 27,000 bob per month, you can bring it down, divide by 30. You must save at least 925 shillings per day. Someone will ask, where will I get 925 shillings from when I'm already broke every day? The truth is, look at what you do every day. You travel, you eat, you make calls. If you look at how you can change those things, you are going to find 925,000 shillings daily in your life. You are going to find 925,000 shillings weekly. You are going to find that amount that you need daily. You need every day, 925 every day. Starting today, by end of this year, you will have 250,000 shillings. When you have it in the circle with a multiplier of 3 and a good credit, you can now borrow 750,000. That is enough to set up a small chicken farm and maybe 1 or 2 cows at most, nothing more than 1 cow, because 1 cow is nearly 300K. Then you review your current expenses to release 9,000 bob per month or to release 900 bob per day, like I've just said. And that money must be seen to be sitting somewhere in a circle, in a savings conduit at the end of the month, without which then you are not moving towards your goal. So it is easy to talk about milestones, but it's quite difficult to turn it into actions, which actions involve the saving of money. So a lot of people that want to plan finances talk about it, but don't do it. There is a difference between financial planning and writing a financial plan. Financial planning is the act of reviewing your goals and adjusting your behavior regularly. Writing a financial plan is a ceremony you do annually, and everybody does that. Once you have your plans, then you evaluate your financial risks. What are the risks that are likely to face you and your finances and all the plans you're putting together? The first risk is always the risk of loss. What is it that could lose your money? Not keeping your money in the right place could lose it. Putting your money in wrong assets could lose it. You can lose money through being stolen, or you can lose money by buying an asset that doesn't exist. So when you make the choice to invest, like we said, invest directly, then you must buy things that cannot be stolen. When you choose to save money in a place, ask, is this savings conduit safe? Should I save money in a place that is not unsafe? I am not keeping the money safe. So look at what is likely to cause loss to you. You must avoid losses. You'd rather have money safe in a bad asset than losing the money. The other risk that you face is the loss of value. You have bought an asset, but then the asset loses value. This time you have not lost the asset, but the asset has lost value. A lot of people have lost money through buying shares of companies they don't understand. Those who bought Mumias have peppers in their wardrobes. They will never recoup. Those who bought Samia, those who bought Everready, those peppers will never give you any value. They are gone. If you bought Kenya Airways at 46, 50 bob, 100, Kenya Airways is never coming back to that price while you're alive. You may perhaps pass that share to a child to keep it for the long run, hoping that a government will do something with that company that could bring it back. That is loss of value. So you don't want to put your money meant for a plan in an asset that will lose value. The other risk you face is what you call foreign currency translation loss. If you are putting money aside for something which you hope to do abroad, for example, to educate a child abroad, then it is risky to keep that money in shillings. If you intend to go to the UK, be buying the UK pounds and be storing them, invest in the UK investments, so that you start to acquire the value of that future pound when you use very little money to acquire it. You are better off avoiding a currency translation loss where the event of expenditure is so certain. Like you know that in 5 years from now, your son is clearing high school and you know they'll go to a UK university, then it doesn't make sense anymore accumulating the money in shilling. So translation value loss is quite a risk that a lot of people do. So evaluate the financial risks facing you. There are many. I can't cover all of them. I've just given you an example. Having done that, then you ask yourself, what is my ability to take risk now? Can I lose money on an investment and move on as if nothing happened? Or if I lost what I had, I would be back to my knees. Today, if you asked me about my ability to take risk. It is so low because I've lost almost what I would have called my reservoir. Because of that, my money is demanded as it comes, which has really lowered my ability to take risk today. So I may be at the right age, but that ability is not an age element. It is age plus your family circumstances and the demands it is putting on your money. Younger people might not have a lot of money, but younger people normally are able to buy small assets that they can hold over a longer time. So the ability to take risk on smaller assets is very high, but it is not the same for the same person on a bigger asset. They can't buy a bigger asset because they don't have a pool of money lying somewhere. An older person may have a pool of money lying somewhere, but the demands on his money are so high because of issues like school fees, medical circumstances of the family, blah, 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 name them. So that question about ability to take risk is very circumstantial. Age and family circumstances prevailing at that point will materially affect your ability. Your current financial situation, the balance between your assets and your liabilities. What are the things you owe, like loans? How much money are they demanding from you? What kind of assets are you holding? What incomes are they producing? If the assets you are holding are less valuable and the loans you are holding are demanding a lot of money, you are in a poor financial situation. You will find yourself always broke because you earn big money and it is going away at the end of the month to meet your circumstances. You need to look at those loans. You need to kill some of them to lower your risk. How much disposable income do you have? Disposable income is not the salary. It is a portion of the salary that remains after the government has collected its mandatory collections like tax. You've paid pension, you've paid NSF, and you've paid NHIF. That money which remains is what you call the net disposable income, which you can now dispose to loans and any other obligations. Again, if your loan obligations are heavy, the disposable income becomes very small. You really will not be able to take on a plan, even though you have written the plan. You have to find ways of reducing your waste. So that waste watch lesson becomes very heavy. So the financial planning process is not just the paperwork written, but now what makes it possible. So the key risks I had mentioned: loss of asset, loss of value of asset, liquidity. How much money do you have in cash quantity that you can use to meet your circumstances as they fall due? There's a risk of you missing your target return. Like I mentioned, you plan to make 3 million shillings investment to pay you 25,000 bob in terms of rent, and then you miss to get the rent amount which you expect to get in 2030. That is a risk. Of course, I've mentioned currency translation risks, a few others. So all those intricacies come between developing a plan and getting it on the ground. And a lot of us are not willing to face the devils with their horns. The devil is in your mind, it's not outside your mind. It's the kind of choices you make, the kind of choices you allow to take control of the money today, determine whether tomorrow will be better or the same or worse. So now when it gets to the implementation of the financial plan, then the first step is determine the monies which you need for your family needs from your disposable income. How much is not available? I'm afraid to say so, but most of us find ourselves without any money. After we have served the loans, everything else, almost everything else, goes to our basic needs, including the payment of school fees and other items like that that are basic needs in nature. A typical high income earner doesn't have money to invest, not because they don't have the income, but because the income is disproportionately allocated to needs that are current in nature and that need to be reduced by way of a very quick scrutiny of the amounts being spent for wastes. Of course, when you are kind with yourself, like I said earlier, you will find some savings. If you find some savings, you're doing good. Second step is determine the cost of the goals that you want to achieve. How much needs to go to that goal given the time available? If you want to invest 3 million shillings in 10 years, I always work with a calculator near me. 3 million shillings in 10 years means you must at least be putting in about 250,000 shillings annually. If you divide that by a year, 12, you must be putting aside, 250,000 divided by 12. You must be putting aside at least 20,000, 21,000 every month. Divide that by 30. You must be putting aside at least 695 shillings a day. What's the cost of your goal day, week, month? Depending on how your money comes. If you earn weekly, you need to be putting aside 700 bob. If you earn monthly, 21,000. If you do things quarterly, 250,000. Without that regularity, you will not hit 3 million. You have to determine that goal and decide how much can I save weekly, monthly, daily, depending on when your income comes. There are people in the embassies, like the US embassy, who are paid every 14 days. So they must align their things to 14 days. How much of your money go to towards paying debts? Or how much of your money will go towards paying debt if you borrow for that goal? Are you able to live after paying the debts? In regular life, that is not very easy because potholes, cold problems like medical, will hit you left, right, and center. So if you are not the kind of person who keeps reserves, then that becomes really a really big problem because debt is not something that you can avoid. Even if you are a very strict person, certain problems will force you to go into debt. How much then am I able to invest? I've been calculating numbers and showing you. If you need to put in 3 million at the end of 10 years, a day you must put in 694 shillings. Look for where the 694 shillings is in your wastage today before you look for any salary increment. Of course, then decide the timing of these things. When do they start? I've been talking about starting now, not starting next. The change in behavior has to occur now. You will change in behavior, freeze, change again, freeze, change again, freeze. It won't happen once. Then, of course, there must be the purchase of the assets to meet the portfolio. The purchase of the assets is very profile-driven, very age-driven. So I cannot advise you that these are the assets for you and these are the assets for the other person because in this forum, I have all ages. But generally, younger people in their 20s and 30s, please buy assets that give you quick capital gains. Don't buy things like land. Leave those for older people who lack ideas. Buy things like small flats, you call them what? 1 bedroom and 2 bedroom kind of flats. Studios that are in right locations, 3 million or less, that can give you both 15,000 or so, 13, 15,000 kind of rent. And will also give you an opportunity to grow the capital value very fast. Within about 5 years, the property has grown 4 times in value and the rent hasn't grown much, but you have both cash flow and the growth in value. And you can now use that to leverage yourself. You have to acknowledge debts if you have them. Debts will never allow you to make any progress in your financial situation, especially when you have eaten up the entire cash flow. And that's why I'm looking at doing a waste watch so that you can bring down the money going out. That cash flow is what you need to make progress. Pastor, I think you can drive the question and answer session. Beyond this, we will not have much time. to be able to answer them.
Great. Thank you so much, Mr. Patrick, for sharing elaborately with us tonight. This is coming at a very good time for many of us to be able to make the right adjustments we need to make to succeed financially. Before I ask Patrick to give us a parting shot, please remember, if you have not given us your contacts, please do the same. Then we'll be able to send you all the tools that have been given here today. It will be easier to communicate that to you. Number two, the speaker has left his contacts. Please make use of his services beyond this platform. Reach out to him and consume those services. Number three, remember to join in the WhatsApp group if you have you'd like to be part of the community. Number four, remember that every Monday there will be a repeat of this on the YouTube channel at Kochoyugi. So if you've not subscribed, pick that link and do the same. And number five, we pay at least $20. It's actually 19.95 dollars to keep this platform monthly. So if you can be kind enough to share at least 50 shillings with us, we'll be able to keep this platform on so that we're able to have it free for all of us in the future. So I'll put there for you a till number 5959211 that you can use to keep this platform alive. I think with that, we are coming to an end. Thank you very much for attending Mentorship Manna tonight. Now I want to request Patrick, if you could give us a parting shot for tonight.
Like I said at the beginning, the whole process of financial planning starts with self-management. And if you not clean your filters, clean your mind, clean your values, realign your values to your plans, because values dictate your choices. If you don't realign your values to your plan, all you have is a well-written piece of paper. And I don't think that's what we want to see 10 years in our lives. We want to see some tangible. So please try and use that tool I've given you, Waste Watch. It's about your values, not about the money. It's about the values you associate with the change you want to make. Make that change and cause some tangible amount of money, however small, to fall back into your savings. And I think as for me and my house, we will just serve the Lord now, nothing else.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Patrick. We are really grateful.